Hey, can anyone hear me over the mic? Okay, Carl is on the telcon trying to get onto the uh, webinar, but I appear to be having some trouble hearing, so let me see if I can make an adjustment. Okay, Monique, my phone is muted, but I'm still not hearing anything. Hmm. Is everyone else on the telcon? If you can give me a shout over the phone, just so I know I'm not talking to myself.
Chris and Monique are on.
Okay, I know Carl's there, and Mike and Trish, you're both there? Trish, can you hear me? And Trish, are you on the telcon? Okay, for those of you that can hear me, we'll give Carl another minute, and maybe Trish is just on mute because I'm not hearing back from her.
AAA Enterprise Voice Conferencing System. After the tone, please state your name followed by the pound key.
Okay, I'm back on the telcon. I accidentally fell off. Trish, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry about that. And Carl, you're still here, right?
Yep, I'm still here just trying to get connected on the internet.
Okay. I know it doesn't show that this is my first time doing a webinar.
Hey, Larry, should I just sign in as a guest?
Yes, go ahead and sign in as a guest.
All right, thanks.
Okay, not sure who that was.
Mike.
Okay, hopefully whoever that was has their phone muted now, and I've got mine, so we'll go ahead and get started. Is everyone ready?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. So, I guess the first thing is if everyone wants to take a look at that. Can everyone see the slides okay? I'm going to assume yes. So go ahead and take a look at that one slide. We're here to talk about leadership, so we have one up there that we'd like you to identify. Go ahead and read the question and throw your answer in chat if you think you know it. I'll give you a hint. It's not Stalin. Trish, did you mean Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, or Abe Lincoln? Just kidding. Okay, so Trish got it right and got it first, so we're going to go ahead with moving on. You know, when we look back on our presidential leaders, you have two that come out in the first century and a half of our country as being the most profound, and that would probably be Washington and Lincoln. So, unlike Mike thought, it was not soupy sales. Let me see. Are you going to advance the slides for me there, Monique, or is there some control here for me to do that? Yes, please, if you would, because I don't have the controls to do that. Whoop, a little quick. Could you go back one? There was an answer slide. For those of us who wanted to see it. Okay, one more slide for us, Monique. So welcome to Advanced Leadership Facilitation Training. This is something new we're trying, both the webinar and the model of training both our tech ops and air traffic people, leadership facilitators together. The goal being that we will have a broader based leadership knowledge among our facilitators and still get the deliveries done in the way that we have in the past. The discussions we're hoping should be richer. We're going to train you people in more of the concepts than we teach the students. So that's what we're here to do. And we're doing both tech ops and air traffic because starting in the next fiscal year, we are going to be doing both ATLDP and TOLDP at the same time in the same facility so that we can get to start to merge our leaders between the two service units. So real quick poll question. You'll just fill that out, Christine, or yes, Monique, I'm going to get this name right eventually, has filled that out. So if you guys will go ahead and pop your answers in there, we'd appreciate that. Trish, you should have had a window pop up on your screen that was a poll, and it says, you know, what option are you and how long have you been working? Okay, are you, Trish, are you signed on to the, are you seeing the slides okay? Okay, that's good enough. So for at least the first two, we've got some good experience there. Oops, let me just minimize the screen. Okay, so, Monique, can you get rid of that poll for me? It won't. There we go. Thank you. And advance the slide for me also, if you would. So ALFT, Advanced Leadership Facilitation Training. In the past, what we've done for our programs has been get some volunteers, and then we would have them come up once we got permission from their district manager, Tom, whoever, to speak to them and have them come up, and we would do a curriculum walkthrough. It would take about 4.5 days. Well, the workshop is 4.5 days, so needless to say, you got what the participants were going to get and no more. And we haven't had a successful one for a little bit of time, so we're going to try a new model. We're going to start with the concepts of leadership that we intend to develop amongst you people. There'll be these 5 or 6 telecom webinars. There'll be some homework assignments, nothing too tricky. Just think about the lessons we're teaching you. You'll come up in September and we'll do a leadership workshop for you. Once we've got that in, we'll feel comfortable that you have more of a leadership base in adaptive leadership than we would normally have among our facilitators. We'll come back a month or 2 later, depending upon the budget and Congress, and I have no way to see that crystal ball. And we will do the traditional curriculum walkthrough. The tech ops people will be in one group and the air traffic will be in the other, but there will be joint discussions. Again, trying to get the 2 groups of future leaders and future leader facilitators to be comfortable working together, because they certainly will be out in the field. The first thing we're going to start with is the objective of leadership. I'm going to go through a quick overview of the acronym is I'm struggling with that, sorry. The ALF, we'll go with that. This is going to be the webinar for week 1, the overview. There are some files to be downloaded. If you haven't done it already, we're going to take a break. Today we're going to look at a video about Enron and extreme safety, a tech ops safety video. We'll do that on a break here in a little bit. This is a new format for me. I'm used to standing up in front of a classroom where everyone can make fun of me, and I'm a little more comfortable with that. So feel free to jump in on the chat or shout out over the telecon. I do have my microphone muted. We're going to, let me scroll down here a little bit. If you could go a slide forward for me there, Monique. Actually, one more. I was talking about that already. So what is it? Again, I said advanced leadership facilitation training. We're developing the new leaders who are going to develop our future leaders. And our managers are partnering with us to gain facilitation skills to teach emerging leaders. What are you going to gain by participating? Well, you're going to get facilitation skills. So I've seen Carl teach. He was one of our sci-fi facilitators. I don't know about you, Trish, but sometimes people come into these programs to be a facilitator and they've never facilitated before. So this program, we've actually purchased seats in a commercial off-the-shelf facilitation training that you guys will schedule yourself to go to, and it's professionals teaching you how to get up in front of them and facilitate well. You're going to gain a vast knowledge around adaptive leadership. That is the model of leadership that we use, if you don't already know, for our programs TOLDP and ATLDP. Then there's going to be a bit of a certification process. It's not going to be too fancy, and we won't give up on you if you promise not to give up on us. What will happen is, and it was in the emails you already sent out, after we go through this development process and the curriculum walkthrough, and some of this is asynchronous, you'll get your facilitation training, you'll observe a workshop, you'll observe a shift simulation, then you'll go out and facilitate one of each with someone from the program office or an experienced facilitator in the back of the room helping you and coaching you. We're going to certify you at whatever level we feel to start. Maybe that'll be workshop, maybe that'll be shift sim, or maybe that'll be both at the same time. But like I said, we're committed to developing a good cadre of people, so we're not going to give up on you. If you keep working with us, we'll keep working with you. The reason we use adaptive leadership is, I say, and Mike will jump in hopefully and tell me I'm speaking out the wrong end again, is that at one point it was decided, I say officially, and then Mike counsels me later, but adaptive leadership is very suitable for the operation of both tech ops and air traffic. There's a lot of pieces to it that we will teach that we will find are very useful for the operation. The biggest one is the one we teach in both our workshops to start with, which is the pause, to get up on the balcony, the separate yourself from the need to react immediately. That's what we teach in the workshop, and we're going to expand your knowledge of that so that when questions come up, discussions that we've seen in the workshops, you'll be able to speak a little more fully to it. Slide for me, Monique. So our learning objectives are pretty much what you see. We're going to teach you guys and help you to apply adaptive leadership to the ATO operational environment. We'll demonstrate the difference between good instructing and facilitation, when to do it. And what we mean by that is anyone can take a curriculum manual, instructor's manual, get up in front of the room and read from it, right? Maybe very good instruction. That's not what we need in leadership. We need facilitation. And the difference being is you don't just answer the questions with the reference out of the book. Someone's going to say to you, so I was back in my area, back at New York Center, and I saw a frontline manager handle this situation this way. How could that have been handled better? A facilitator will be able to enter into a discussion, or as Viscount and I like to refer to it sometimes as the dance, right? You'll enter into this discussion and be able to apply the adaptive leadership philosophies and techniques that we're going to teach you and broaden their horizon. And rather than just say, well, on page 53 of the Practice of Adaptive Leadership, it says to do this. We want you to be able to engage and understand and be able to have a deeper, richer discussion. Because following the material is good. It's good material. I'm sure Mike would agree, since he's responsible for a large portion of it. But the real value comes in when you can have a discussion about what it looks like in the workplace, take the terms out of adaptive leadership, and apply it directly to the operation, either the SSC, if that's appropriate, or the air traffic operation. Okay, slide for me. So, what are we expecting? If you haven't already received the book, you will, Practice of Adaptive Leadership. We want you to actively participate from here on out. There's a calendar. We're a little bit behind schedule in terms of I really was hoping to launch this in March, but we ended up having to do Succeed Your First Year for the new FLMs. So we're working towards the end, closer to the end of the year than I had preferred. We'll have 5 of these 2-hour webinars. We're guessing they're going to go about 2 hours. We're not exactly sure. We did a dry run, but this is the pilot version of this, so it may not be 2 hours. We'll expect you to attend the ALFT, the ALF training in September. That's the week where we're going to dig deeply into the material that we want you to learn beyond what we teach in the facilitation, in the workshop. You'll schedule at your convenience and your facility's convenience the effective facilitator training. That's that commercial off-the-shelf training I spoke to you about. And we'll work with you to schedule your workshop observations. We're also going to train more, hopefully, than we need. Never as many as we want. But the history in the past has been that with any of these programs, when we use operational people to facilitate, after a while, they sometimes their boss says they can't go anymore, or they get a new boss who's not comfortable. Staffing shortages come up. So we're going to publish the schedule. It's out there already for the rest of for all of FY15, and we're going to work with you and your boss to make sure that they're comfortable and you're comfortable and can move ahead at a comfortable pace. And then still, we end up with facilitators who are able to do it. We'll have some pre-reading, some homework assignments. Again, it's not going to be too stressful. We're going to talk about a chapter or 2 chapters to read for an upcoming workshop. Required participation. We know we're on shift work out there, so we're asking you to attend as many live as you can. We're offering them twice a week. But we're also going to record them. Oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize that slide was coming. Thank you, Monique. We're also recording them. It's summertime. I've got 3 air traffic people who told me flat out they wouldn't be able to make the first week, and that's okay. So you'll be able to listen to them and call and ask for questions. We'll get you hooked up to the KSN. Right now, this is being hosted on a different program's KSN. We have to get a KSN just for this, and we will. And all your materials, all the recordings will be hosted there. And we will be using Dropbox for homework assignments also. One thing that's critical, Carl and I have just been talking about this recently. We need to keep our bosses happy so that they will keep letting us use you. And Trish, I don't know how much that's an issue for you. I'm hoping it's not too much. But we have seen problems in the past, and we want to avoid that. So we'll need to keep the TOMs, the district managers, the air traffic managers comfortable. So let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about next. Slide. The leadership cycle. And Mike, do you got anything to add up until this point about the history of facilitation?
Well, just that am I causing some bad stuff here?
I'm guessing. Can you?
I'm hearing reverb badly on this thing.
Hold on. Okay, probably not the rest of the day, Mike, because I know you've got a lot to say. I actually saw him come to introduce a workshop one time with that slide and run through the whole slide in about 25 minutes while both the facilitators were in the back of the room beating their head against the wall. So that was vastly entertaining. I was not the facilitator, so it was much more entertaining for me. But Mike's right. We're going to talk a little bit about the objective of leadership today. I'm going to go very high level around this cycle. And this is a cycle we teach in both our workshops. We're going to be getting into all of these on future webinars. So we'll start at the top, the objective of leadership. If everything was the same as it always is, and everything was good, and we weren't having any operational errors, or meeting our restoration and our PMs and all that, we wouldn't really need leaders, right? If it was a perfect world, but that's not the case. And what happens is, where we see most of our problems, the call for leadership normally comes out of organizational misalignment. So we'll define what organizational alignment is, so you'll recognize it, and then you'll recognize it when you start to see misalignment. And the role of the leader and the need for leadership is to bring the organization back into alignment when we drift away from our mission, vision, value, and goals. We'll get specifically into them in a little bit. Like I said, we're just doing a quick high level. The thing to remember, though, is the work of leadership is never done, because it's not a matter of if misalignment shows up, it's always going to show up. So it's a matter of when misalignment shows up, and observing it and watching for it and seeing it as soon as it happens. That's not easy. That takes practice. So the second oval is the technical versus adaptive organizational challenges. We are extremely, both in air traffic and tech ops, technical people in the definition, in the sense that they mean an adaptive leadership. We know our jobs. When something happens, we know what to do. We don't have to think about it. And that's good as a controller or a technician. We don't need to be thinking about, well, these two planes are coming together. Why don't I form a committee and we'll figure out how to separate these airplanes? We're taught, we're certified. Two planes start to come together, we separate them. Trish, you'll have to excuse my ignorance of the tech op side, but I'm sure if a piece of equipment in your sector goes out, you know what to do. So yes, we fix it, exactly correct. When we get into management positions, and again, we want our managers to be leaders, we don't immediately leap to it. We figure out what the problem is. It'll be an adaptive challenge. We'll get to learn more about that when we get to it. And leaders help us fix those adaptive organizational challenges. One confusion slide for me, Monique, that started, it became a little bit prevalent when we first started doing this, is that we were anti-management, or that we were bashing management in our workshops, and that's not true at all. There are different roles. The bulk of your job as an FLM is management. Those are important skills. What we're saying is we now need to start to develop leadership. So we will talk for almost a full day in the workshops about the difference of between management and leadership. And it's never versus, management versus leadership. It's the difference between, how they complement each other and what their roles are and when you use each one. I mean, to put it simply, is management's about maintaining stability, and leadership is about organizational alignment and moving the organization into a different direction, or the direction that our leaders have given us to move it. Change. Okay, slide for me, Monique. So then we get into the real fun part of the workshops, leadership strategies. And the two that we talk about are get on the balcony. It's a metaphor, right? If you're at a dance, you can't see the whole thing if you're on the floor. You picture a high school prom. You go up on the balcony, you can see the whole thing. And then the skills that we practice while we're up there, and the two basic ones we talk about are the reframe and the pause. First we pause, we think about it, try to figure out what the problem actually is, and the reframe, so that we understand the problem in terms of an adaptive challenge as opposed to a technical challenge. And slide for me, Monique. Okay, now can you hear me? I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. What was someone tell me what the last thing you heard was? Ooh, everyone's typing. This ought to be interesting. Change the slide back, or
Last thing I heard was that for the site.
okay, that was all broken up. Okay, I'm gonna go on mute, and someone just tell me what the last. Okay, I got that. We're on dimensions, so we didn't fall too far behind. I don't know why my speaker went on mute. Apologize, my mic. So dimensions, I'll start from the beginning again. Dimensions are what those of us who bid on a job in the last couple of years know as managerial success factors. And they're made up of competencies, 16 of them. Communications, business acumen, vision, things like that. We've all probably seen them. And that's what the FAA gave us. And when the ATO got involved, we ended up using 30 or 40 SMEs. I don't remember the exact number. Bringing them down. Actually, it's been much more than that, because the 30 or 40 SMEs were the original number for the air traffic leadership program. We've since done tech ops, SSCs and SSCMs. Technicians and SSCMs. We've done air traffic managers, TOMs, and all those groups down have got behaviors. Behaviors are the measurable, observable behaviors, I hate to use the word in the definition, of what makes up those competencies. And we've made them up in 5 anchors, leading from the bad, ineffective or minimally effective, to the really good, highly effective. So that if someone says to me, what does communications look like when it's really done well by a frontline manager or a TOM or an air traffic manager, we can take out this sheet and look at 6 or 7 or 8 examples of how communication looks when it's done highly effectively. These are your tools, right? These 16 competencies. So this is how we fill your toolbox to make you a better manager and leader. Again, the focus is on leadership, but still we recognize that the job is management, and these competencies and these behaviors answer to both. So that was pretty much the high-level view from 45,000 feet of the leadership cycle. Let's start to talk about the actual training that we're going to go through. Could you slide for me, Monique? Okay, quick question. So in chat, tell me, is there anything new in this leadership cycle that stands out or is different from your past experience in leadership training? And if you haven't had any leadership training, I'm going to assume it's all new, but tell me what struck you or what stood out to you. And just type your answer in chat. And Trish, I'm guessing that you're one of the TOLDP people that Viscount has as one of the district leads. Is that correct? Okay, so Trish, you've actually got some experience with the simulations. That's good. So you're pretty familiar with the cycle, and you've seen the competencies before from the leads training. What we're going to do now is just dive in a little deeper for you guys, so that when you go out and facilitate, you'll be able to do that. And Carl, you said you were typing, but then it disappeared. I'm guessing this is pretty much kind of all new to you. I know you and I have talked about it during Sci-Fi, but were you involved in the SUCOM LDPI at all? Okay, so I'm not as familiar with LDPI as I would like to be, but this is pretty much new for everyone. Even though we've been exposed to it, we have, excuse me one second, we have a little technical difficulty over here. It should be fairly new to everyone, is all I was trying to say. So if you can go to the next slide for me, Monique. So your role as a facilitator in the context of leadership development programs is going to be more than it used to be in terms of our previous programs. Again, it's not going to be having you just sit up there and reading from the curriculum and relying on another expert to answer the problems. So we've talked about that a little bit, and we've talked about the leadership cycle a little bit. I'm going to need to put this on pause for 1 minute because my boss is frantically trying to get in touch with me. So I apologize, but just give me 1 minute and take a bio break, and I'll be back with you in 1 second. I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm back. I told him my phone's tied up on a webinar. I'll see if it's budget drill day, so he may actually call back. We'll try and get to the slides though before we have to speak to him. So week 1, module 1. We're going to get into it now. and we're going to be talking about the need for the objective of leadership. Let me just get my slides caught up. So, the learning objectives for this module are to describe organizational alignment in terms of mission, vision, value, and goals of the FAA. Describe the difference between espoused and lived values. Discuss how the FAA's strategic initiatives can be applied to the workplace. Describe the term line of sight for employees in your work environment. If you hit the slides for me there, Monique. So, mission, vision, value, and goals, what are they? These are the organizational alignment markers that all organizations should have, whether they know they have them or not. They're not answering to them maybe explicitly like we do, but they're there. And they are mission. What are we in business to do? We all know that one. It's safety. Vision is the impact we want to make in the world. Values, that's who we are as we do our business. And our goals are our targets to help us achieve our mission, our mission and our vision. And those change. If you look at these mission, vision, values, and goals throughout the years of the agency, they may change the wording a little bit on the mission and the vision. The values, well, they added one in the last couple of years. It was innovation. And the goals, they change more or less. I'm going to sound cynical, but I don't mean to. It seems like the administrators come in, we get a new set of goals. They don't change all that much, but it seems like in my career, in the recent past, we can think of first it was a flight plan, then Destination 2025, and then Strategy 2014, and now we've got the strategic initiative goals that our current administrator just put out. So if we'll click slides, we'll see them. Monique, you there? What kind of warning are you getting, Trish? Because I seem to have lost Monique. Let me see if I can... There we go. She's back. Our mission is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. I'm sure we've all heard that. Our vision, we strive to reach the next level of safety, efficiency, environmental responsibility, and global leadership. We're accountable to the American public and to our stakeholders. Okay, if you could click for me, Monique. Our values, safety is our passion, excellence is our promise, integrity is our touchstone, people are our strength, innovation is our signature, and one last one. And I know I'm going out, we'll get to that poll question in a second, Monique. Actually, we'll do the poll question right now. So prior to this, and just answer in chat for now, have you all seen mission, vision, value, and goals prior to this workshop, or is this new to you? Carl's seen it. Mike says he's seeing them for the first time. And Trisha's seen them. So when you get into the workshops, what you're going to see, and it's getting less and less common, but it's not that uncommon, or actually it's very common for the participants to come in and say, I know what our mission is, but that's the first time I've seen the rest of it. So next slide, Monique. Take a look at this, answer in chat, identify 3 ways how the mission, vision, and values relate to yourself as an FLM on a daily basis. And I'm going to mute while you do that. Okay, we'll go with that. It lets me bring up a good point. Oh, there we go. Two more position. No, safety denies and people always. One of the things that we talk about in the workshops is that this is not only a leadership work development workshop, it's also a language lesson. Heifetz and Linsky in all their books have always said that one of the advantages of sticking to a common philosophy and a common language is that as leaders meet each other, they'll be able to speak to each other and understand what they're saying. So this leadership course will be a language course also. So as we start with the facilitators, we're going to start with the facilitators and also the participants. And when we start to answer questions, we're going to push back on you a little bit. So, Carl, you said set the standard for safety. What we would look for there is you're speaking to the mission of safety. So when we're talking about these things, we'll start to work on learning the leadership of adaptive language so that when we talk and respond, we can answer that way. Your questions make sense. Your answers rather make sense, and they would to all of us. But what we want to do is start to use the language of adaptive leadership. When we're speaking about mission, vision, value, and goals, we try to be specific to set the standards of safety would be we are going to respond to the mission of safety. Sometimes safety is also one of our values. So you may be speaking to the value rather than the mission. We just want to start to practice being clear on that. Okay, next slide. So espouse values and live values. We're going to see a video that talks about this in a little bit here while we're on break. But there's our values, right? Safety, quality, integrity, people, innovation. There's a lot of people that say them, but don't actually do them. We've probably seen people in the workplace, even our leaders sometimes, say that people are our strength. And then they turn around and do something that makes us think, I don't think they really believe that, or I'm not sure that they're really always trying to live that value. Well, that's having what they call espoused values. They say it's important to them, but then they don't actually live up to them. You'll see other people who are living these values. They have internalized these values, and when they act with those values in the forefront of their mind. So when they're talking about people, they will always be considering people as their strength, and they'll be treating them with integrity. So it's kind of a different model, and it all comes down to the middle value. Integrity. If you have integrity, then you're living the values. If you don't really have integrity, you're espousing the values. And we see this all the time, right? If you go to the next slide for me. Espouse values that are values that people and organizations say are important, and live values are ones that they demonstrate every day. If they're their live values, you're walking the walk, just not talking the talk. So in chat, what are some of the live values where you work that are in conflict with our espoused values? In other words, what do you see happening? What do you see being done that belies our actual values? And I'll go on mute for a moment while you guys type. Okay, so Carl wrote, I assume you can all see this. We say that safety is our mission, and Trish, you're responding. Also, safety. But at times you let the small things slide because that's what we've always done, and it works. So I'm from the en route also, like Carl. So the way I always saw that as a challenge was, as Don Rumsfeld says, you sometimes start the shift with the crew you have, not the crew you want. You know, we're worried about safety. We don't want to have any events, any losses, but we're too under our desired staffing, and we're in a budget crunch, so we won't get to call in overtime. Is that is that an example that you were thinking of, Carl? Does that fit your example? Okay, and Trish, I'm not so familiar. A little bit of what I've seen in tech ops is at the centers where, okay, staffing plan, I'm going to assume that's sort of what I was just talking about. You need to have X number of technicians and in your unit, and you don't. The one that I see is electrical safety in the centers a lot. We say safety is paramount and that we don't want to do anything to cause any degradation of that safety, and yet we let people work on live panels. Okay. Okay, yeah, and Carl brings up the controllers taking shortcuts. We get into safety drift because it's quicker to say something or take a shortcut or just a very short relief briefing. What you see is what you got. Okay, could you go to the next slide for me, Monique, while we wait? Carl's typing again. We'll just get this next slide up. And yes, Carl makes the point that supervisors see it sometimes fail to do it on the spot, so then it becomes normal. The other part of values is they do compete. So the challenge is we do have budgets, we do have overtime, and someone at your facility or district has to make the decision. I would like to think that safety is never going to be second to budget. We know that sometimes we do pay the price. If we look at the competing values that we see on a regular basis, is safety versus efficiency, meeting restoration times and not worrying so much about sending 2 techs out to a remote site when we should, employee safety versus customer safety, daily operations versus team development. If we're short, how often are we skipping our team meetings or stopping developmental training so that we can get the operations done? And then there's always organizational interests versus personal interests. Values are always going to come into play, and they're going to compete frequently. The term we'll start to use is competing or conflicting values in the workshops. And this is where a leader has to listen to what they call the words beneath the music. Because people won't normally say in the operational environment that, yeah, I feel like degrading safety because I want a break. They'll talk about other things. And when you ask questions and you listen, you'll find out what the competing values are. Then you can come up with a clear response to the challenge of those competing values. So why don't you do me a favor and try and type in one example each of the competing values. The value of safety versus whatever that you see in your operation on a regular basis. Let's go family versus mission. Trish, okay. So I'm going to try and parse that out. We have a family life and we like to have work balance, but sometimes we have to stay overtime, work late, come in on our time off. Is that what you're referring to, Trish? Okay, I'm not sure I had it muted there for a little bit, so I don't know if you heard that. Trish, you said family versus mission, and I see that. Having started out, all of us, as long ago as we did, work-life balance was not a thing we heard about too much, and we were expected to work until the work was done, and our family would be there when we got home, usually. And at that point, we didn't do a very good job of balancing it, even though some of us did really want to spend time with our families. Is that a good synopsis, Trish? And Carl, you went operational safety versus different types of training, CBI, ELMS, team meetings, and that's a common one too for us in the air traffic operation. We need to get the training done. The procedures are changing, and we need to get the people back to do their CBIs. There's required ELMSs. So sometimes we don't get them done because we staff up the area appropriately, and sometimes we take a calculated risk and we maybe work one or two bodies short to get the training done. But these are all good examples of competing values. They're both important things, right? We do need to spend time with our family while at the same time we need to get our mission accomplished. We need to keep the operation safe, keep the airplanes moving, but we also need to get the training done. So that's what we're talking about in terms of competing values. And when you can start to parse out those competing values from what people are actually saying, what Heifetz and Alinsky refer to as the music beneath the words, then you'll really start to be able to find out what the actual issues are and deal with them better. So when we talk about values, there's two things we need to really start to get down solid. And that's the espoused versus the lived, and the competing values. So Monique, as soon as I mute, yeah, thanks, Mike. No, it's true. And if I came across as saying that they're, or if it sounded like I meant hypocritical, it's certainly not. It's actually just the opposite. The espoused can frequently be how people really feel. And like I said, that's where you get your insights into what the conflicts actually are. We frequently see them as, or think of them as I'll say hypocritical, although I shouldn't probably. It's just that when we have to make choices, sometimes we make choices that aren't always in true keeping with our values. And if it's happening frequently enough, maybe it's the values that need to be examined, or maybe it's the drivers that are forcing us to not live our actual values. So if Monique would click slides for me, we're going to take a 20-minute break. During the 20-minute break, there's a couple quick videos to watch. Those are links right there on your slide, so you click on them. You've probably already seen Trish Extreme Safety. And Enron, we're going to talk about a case where we truly see espouse values versus live values. So let's take 20 minutes, and I'll throw the extra minute and change in, and we'll come back at 2:30, and we'll talk about those videos. Okay, I see that everyone's back and the magic timer has ended. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this microphone on mute, and we can all unmute our phones and have a discussion about that rather than try to type that in.
relations within the people.
Okay. Okay, I need someone else out there to mute their phones. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, if, we can go to the next slide there, Monique. So within the agency, we actually we saw something occur in 2010 when I was down doing my detail. And if you can think back to 2010, it wasn't that long ago. We were in the midst of all sorts of continuing resolutions. It had just become the way we did business, right? I don't remember how many continuing resolutions in a row that we had, but there were many. And while I was down doing my detail, we had workshops for ATLDP scheduled. We had people lined up. And someone put out a letter from the finance budget side saying that all travel that was not mission critical or required was suspended. And I'll just read the story as I wrote it, and then we'll talk about it. So, can you click to that slide, Monique? So there's a resolution about travel funds. Only mission critical and operationally necessary travel was approved. ATLDP leads and CPC's workshops were already planned. A waiver request was sent up through the SALC for us to say that, hey, this was critical. The waiver request was presented to the SALC, and at first, our VP said ATLDP was not considered essential travel. A rebuttal was, an argument was made in our favor at the SALC for travel. If you go to the next slide, Monique. Nope, go back one. I'm sorry. I thought it's in the talking points. I apologize. I thought the whole, nope, you're good. One more forward. There you go. It's in the talking points. So I'll just read it as I wrote it. Okay, this is not really a story. I call it a parable just to be, because it is a story that has a moral lesson. But I was not at the SALC. Viscount was not at the SALC. Mike, I don't know if you were there, but it was witnessed by people that we trust to tell us the story. Not going to put any names in. They don't matter. None of them are retired. They all still work. They were doing what they thought was right. But in the throes of yet another continuing resolution, a decision made about travel funds as we spoke. discussion was held at the next SALC, and a vice president stated that ATLDP could not be considered essential travel. It was development. And there was not unanimous agreement, but the SALC was not going to object to that as a group. One member did not agree. He rose and proffered this argument. This is a paraphrase. I'm not sure that we have clear language about what the travel requirements are in this memo, but we do have clear language about one thing that speaks to this decision. We have the FAA values. We have the value of people are our strength, and that integrity is our touchstone. If we're not going to honor these values, then they are truly not our values, meaning that we're espousing them but not living them. It's also competing values, because the budget is important, right? We do have to spend the money wisely and appropriately. We do have to be good fiscal stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. But like I said at the beginning of the story, I wasn't present at the meeting. What did occur though lends credence to the story that I was told. Right after that, and during every financial crisis except the sequester, ATLDP workshops were funded and the travel was paid for. So therein you see both espoused values versus lived values and competing values. And in this case, our values turned out to be lived, even though there was some challenge to them. And when it came to the competing values, people lived with what was right. Okay, next slide for me, Monique. So, those are the values. And as I said, when we're talking about these, we always go mission, vision, value, and goals. Those are the orders that we discuss them in. Because I said the goals will change more frequently than mission, vision, or values. Other than the wording, mission, vision, values really haven't changed. We added one value. But the strategic initiatives that we have now were put out, I believe it was February of this year. I'd have to check the exact date. And they replaced Destination 2014. I'm getting old and they changed a little too quick for me. But the new ones are just as important as the old ones. And they are as follows. Risk-based decision making. We're going to build on safety management principles to proactively address emerging safety risks by using consistent data-informed approaches to make smarter system-level risk-based decisions. There's a lot behind that. SMS is becoming more and more critical. Safety risk management policy, the new safety assurance and quality assurance and quality control orders, the new safety promotions that have come out, and the desire to align our value of safety with our value of efficiency. Well, that's not really a value, but our concern for efficiency in operation. The fiscal constraints compel the agency to use resources more effectively, and they help us to identify hazards and mitigate risk. The measures are going to be outcome measures, metrics like we used to see around efficiency and on-time arrivals, but now it'll be based on decreased risk, decreased commercial fatalities, process measures, and number of cross-organizational decisions made using safety data. And the one that we discussed earlier immediately comes to mind is Tech Ops and Air Traffic talking about how quick do I really need that piece of equipment back. Slide, Monique. The next one is the NASA initiative. We're going to prioritize next-gen benefits, integration of new user entrants, and streamline air traffic management services. The initiative is to lay the foundation for the NASA of the future by achieving prioritized next-gen benefits, enabling the safe and efficient integration of new user entrants, including UASs, drones, and commercial spaceflight, and deliver more efficient, streamlined air traffic management services. They'll be tracking the progress across both types of metrics. Outcome metrics, those measure the success coming in, and the initiative metrics. Next slide. This, of course, is the one that's near and dear to our heart. This and the next one. Global leadership. It's actually the next one, I apologize. A data-driven approach to global standards. We want to improve safety, so it is near and dear to our heart. We want to improve air traffic efficiency and environmental sustainability. We want to improve safety, air traffic efficiency, and environmental sustainability across the globe through an integrated, data-driven approach that shapes global standards and enhances collaboration and harmonization, and better targets FAA resources and efforts. Next slide, Monique. And this is the one I was really speaking of. Workplace of the future. This is the one that's near and dear to us down in leadership development. Future human capital to identify recruiting, training future leaders, and technical and functional skills. The workforce of the future will prepare the FAA's human capital for the future by identifying, recruiting, and training a workforce with the leadership, technical, and functional skills to ensure that the U.S. has the world's safest, most productive aviation sector. So, one more slide, Monique? May not be one more, but next one I should say. This is the alignment. We're getting back to alignment now, and this is how it looks when we start to incorporate the mission, vision, value, and goals into that alignment piece. Our mission has always been to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Today is the one day my son's bus decides to show up half an hour early. Okay, so the alignment piece. Prior to us talking a lot in air traffic about alignment, we had what we called the blame culture, or the no harm, no foul culture. If something happened that we used to call an operational error, we signed some CBIs, decertified the person, make sure they didn't get an OSI or an SCI, and we were all happy, or so it seemed. Someone said, you know, we've been doing this for 25 years, maybe it's not really working. Well, what could we do? Let's take a look at our mission. Provide the safest aerospace system in the world, reach the next level of safety. Safety is our passion, and the safety management system is the goal and the tool we're going to use to get there. Well, when we look at that, we suddenly start to realize the blame culture isn't actually going to work. And what we end up with is a safety culture. Does everyone see how that has better alignment with our mission, vision, value, and goals than what we were doing before? And you can respond in chat. Okay. I'm glad we can see that. Could you hit the next slide for me, Monique? So the tech ops example would be walking through the same way. Mission above all, right? Get everything back to service as soon as possible without regard for human safety. But the mission, vision, value, and goals show us that that may not be the best way. Bringing everyone back into alignment, particularly around the new goals, improving safety and workplace of choice, we realize that we have to balance mission and employee safety. And Monique, do we have the all point safety video on here somewhere? That was in our notes. Okay, no, don't worry about it. We'll skip it for now. Trish, I'm sure you've seen the all point safety, and I'll send a link to Carl. So why don't we skip to the next slide, Monique? So I'm going to ask you to type your responses. Tell me, one, have you seen this emphasis start to change and play out in your work environment? Do you still see old school behaviors reflecting the mission above all perspective? Or the blame culture, no harm, no foul culture for us, Carl? And what are some of the counter narratives that we see that honor both mission and employee safety? For example, look for responses such as we are only as good as our people, or the other one that's out there right now that I'll throw out there for you people to try and remember. Take a minute or two, type your answers in chat. We'll come back and discuss them. Okay, so there we go. Carl has finished typing. Excellent. I particularly like your response, Trish, about the school. You'd think the schools would be more clear about personal protective equipment than anyone, and that the technician actually was wise enough to refuse to perform the class activity shows us the message is starting to get out there. And we do see it, as Carl said, in our world, particularly in the center environment, with some of the new tools, TARP and whatnot. We're training them better, as he's saying now, in order to prove, and it empowers the controllers to feel like they are heard. And this is all true. We do every once in a while see some backslipping. And Carl's saying that controllers sometimes refusing to provide service when safety is compromised. And that's a different kind of thing than we definitely used to see, because we were definitely taught, move the airplanes if you want to make it in the big time like the centers. You just move them and don't worry about the safety so much. I won't say they didn't say don't worry about it, but moving the airplanes was always more of an issue. Okay, and the one saying that I like that we're starting to see is NAS first, but people always. It kind of lets people think about that in a simple way. Yeah, we've got a mission to move the airplanes, or we've got a job to move the airplanes, but our mission is still safety. Okay, Monique, slide. So this is the graphic representation of what we've been talking about here in this module. Alignment as line of sight. For those of us who have been around long enough, remember Russ Chu was the one that really introduced that to us in the FAA, and soon took off the ATO and spun it off to he used this to represent line of sight, to show the need for the ATO. And what we're going to do is, in our workshops, we're going to show this pretty early on during the need for leadership part. And here's what we talk about. The left-hand side of the line of sight is the controller, right? And we as frontline managers get to deal with the activities and the behaviors directly with the controllers. We're very rarely going to talk about one controller being out of alignment. We're going to talk about organizational alignment. We're going to talk about how to have discussions with controllers so that they understand the mission, vision, value, and goals. But the type of misalignment that we're most concerned with as leaders is organizational misalignment. Usually, when you hear it from one or two people, it's probably just an individual thing. You start to hear it, you've got to listen to the individuals, though, because as you start to hear it from more and more, it may indicate some form of organizational misalignment. So what we're looking at above the controller's head is activities or behaviors. We talked about behaviors. Those are the elements that make up a competency. And it's what employees do and how they do it. The behaviors are how they do it. They do it from minimally effectively or not at all effectively, all the way up to highly effectively. Those behaviors and those competencies go all the way up the line to policies and procedures at the local or district level, strategic goals at the national level, and ultimately point to our mission, vision, and values. And the more leadership can articulate this line, excuse me one second. Thomas, shh. Sorry about that. Teleworking does have its pitfalls once in a while. The more leadership can articulate this line of sight to employees and persuade them of its importance, the better the results are for the organization. Next slide, Monique. So, once we've got that set, we can see an example in a new slide, right? Except that we have to adjust this. We still have destination 2025 in there, and I apologize about that, but From a tech ops example of line of sight, we have specialist work assignment, maintain the ASDX, the ASR9s, and the MODES radars. The objective for tech ops as a group is to be responsive and cost-effective maintenance of the NAS facility systems and equipments. The ATO goal is operational availability of the National Airspace System. And we still have Destination 2025, but delivering aviation access through innovation, and that supports the mission, vision, and values of the agency. Next slide, Monique. What happens, though, is for a lot of reasons, we drift out of alignment. And the leader's job is to bring us back into alignment. So what can cause organizational misalignment? Well, there's a lot of different things. Leadership's not sharing the vision or the reasons behind changes in organizational policy. This leads to resistance. This we'll be talking about in a later module. Resistance is a huge piece of the job of leaders dealing with that resistance, anticipating it and planning for it. The conflict between personal interests and organizational values. The unexamined cultural practices that tend to undermine desired change. My son keeps poking his head in to see what I'm doing. Sticking with tactics that worked well before but are inadequate to address current challenges. Employees not having clear performance expectations. Employees not receiving feedback on their performance. An inconsistency between policies and procedures and strategic goals. So tell me what example or one of those clauses I mentioned. Give me one each. Each of you give me one that you have seen in your workplace and briefly spell it out. In other words, employees not receiving feedback on their performance. Carl, you can't use that one? I just did, and we see that too much in our world, so I need you to come up with another one. And while they do that, could you switch slides for me, Monique? Okay, employees feel that the goals of safety are sometimes compromised because of budget. Now, that's certainly true. Okay, let me ask Carl and Trish one thing real quick. We're a little bit long here. Are you guys okay to go on, or do we need to release you so you can either get to work or get home? We've got about 4 more slides. Okay, Carl, you're good for another 25, I see. Okay, so you're in a hotel. I hope you're doing it at the hotel bar, Trish, and relaxing and enjoying this. And I won't tell Viscount if you are. Okay. Yes, okay. So we'll keep going then. We don't have a whole lot left to do, but we do see that as these things go on, and we've heard about this from our friends over in safety culture and just culture, if we ignore these little things and don't try to adjust it early, as you can see from Viscount's artistic picture, the drift gets worse and worse, and the alignment gets further and further out of alignment. So how do we start to talk to our controllers and our people, any of our bosses and peers. Monique, next slide. And figure out what it is that we can do. This is a very old, I shouldn't say old, this is a model of what we can deal with and what we can't deal with, right? And it's a pretty simple model. It's one we teach in our workshops. You have 3 circles, and Mike will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Stephen Covey that came up with this model. In the middle, you have your circle of control. You own this. You can take this issue, make whatever changes you need to address it, and fix it. I'm doing the air quotes. Circle of influence. You don't own it necessarily, right? But you have some influence over it. It's an overtime issue, consistently being told no. Well, you have an operations manager or a district manager who trusts you because you've made good decisions and demonstrated skills that give that your frontline manager, your boss, the ability to trust you and accept your influence. So you can go there and say, hey, I don't think we're doing the right thing. I think there's a better way to do it. Let's go ahead and try and do it this way. And if you've been successful in the past, you're likely to have success there also. Circle of concern is something you just can't do anything about. You care about it, but you don't own it. You don't have influence on it. You might have in some remote way perceived influence on it, but it's unlikely that you're really going to be able to change anything. For example, I don't know what Congress is going to give us for a budget for FY15. It's midterm elections, and maybe I can call my congressman and say, I'm not going to vote for you unless FA gets a lot of money. But really, that's in my circle of concern. I care, but there's almost nothing I can do. What we really want to emphasize, though, is circle of influence, that interface between the circle of influence and the circle of concern. What we talk about in the workshop is that the circle of influence can do one of 2 things. If you play in that circle and play successfully, it starts to expand. And things that were in your circle of concern suddenly are in your circle of influence. And on the opposite end, if you don't work in your circle of influence, you only work in your circle of control, your circle of influence will start to shrink. So go out there and have discussions around mission, vision, value, and goals with your employees. Try to bring your organization back into alignment. But when you're first starting to practice these skills, you don't go for solving all the agency's problems in one fell swoop. Pick something small that you think you can influence, staffing on a given shift. Do that a couple of times, and suddenly, if you're successful, pick your battles right, use your competencies to effectively address them, your circle of influence will start to expand. But if you see that you're not trying to do anything in your circle of influence, you're allowing the conditions to push you around, then your circle of concern will grow, squeezing out your circle of influence. Next slide, Monique. So we're going to do a couple poll questions. First one, if you want to pop it up, Monique, is type in one example of misalignment in your workplace. And type your answer in the poll box. Can everyone see the question 3 poll box? Okay, there's one. Disconnect between upper management with actual need for staffing the traffic. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was Carl. And after sequestration, employees felt the agency did not care about them. Let's see. Okay. The second one will be, let's see if I can you move that box for me, Monique? There we go. Put yourself in the manager's shoes and consider what would you do about this situation. And Monique, I see. There we go. Thank you. So Q4 should be up there. Go ahead and type in your response to that. And then Monique, why don't you pop up poll question 3 also, because that's a pretty simple one. And just tell us when, after you're done with 4, just tell us in 3, do you think your misalignment example is within your circle of concern, influence, or control? Okay, so question 4, spend more time working with my FLMs and my rep to get a clear vision of the needs. Okay. And Carl, you thought that was within your circle of influence. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Monique to close the poll boxes. Oh, and circle of influence also for Trish. And if we could go to the next slide, Monique. Summary. Yay. Advanced facilitate. That's a typo there. We got advanced leadership facilitator. Overview in module 1. So we talked about your role, future facilitators for our leadership modules, our leadership workshops, the leadership cycle, the FA mission, vision, value, and goals, the strategic initiatives, the line of sight, the espoused values versus the lived values. I touched on the competing values, which is something we're going to cover more later. But here's what I want you to think about. We'll skip the poll question for now because we're running out of time. What is the one way that I can apply these new ideas to my daily work life? Slide there, Monique. Sorry. And skip to the next slide. So here's what we've got for next week. I'm going to ask you to read chapters 2 and chapters 5 of the Practice of Adaptive Leadership. I know, Carl, you're going on vacation, so we'll get you caught up after this next one. We'll ship the mail. I don't remember whether I gave you a book or whether we shipped it out. We will ship it out to you shortly. The next webinar is, if you haven't... oh, you do have the book. Okay, excellent. Next webinar, August 4th and August 7th, 1 to 3. Same bat time, same bat channel. If you'll click on the link there at the bottom of that slide for attendance, which we know who you are and we know where you've been, but there's also a little bit of an assessment evaluation for this module. So if you could just take a couple minutes, fill that out. I apologize that I was a little interrupted here by my son getting home early. And Monique, you typed in something. It says August 4th and August 7th, or August 7th on, yes, August 4th or August 7th on the slide. Thank you, Monique. And I apologize about the noise. I'm not sure why, but my son got home early. And Trish, you can just shoot us the Monique, Trish says the iPad is not working for the link, and Carl will be here on the 7th. Okay, Monique is sending you a link, Trish. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Or better yet, hold on. I'm going to turn off this microphone, and we can go to the other microphones now, the Telcon, and we'll see if there's any questions.